The Andrew Lake Podcast.
Now in collaboration with Acid Quote Tees.
Feel the rhythm now.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to announce that you have arrived at your next episode of the Andrew Lake Podcast. Wishing you a beautiful morning, hoping you're smiling, feeling fun, something to pick you up on this fine day. Shout out to Boris Minkov. Also shout out to Simon Marcinski. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Boris and Simon are long-term listeners of the podcast, and I'm very grateful to have them write in to say thank you for these episodes. And very good to be with you. I don't know where you're from. For some reason, I think Simon's from Switzerland. I'm not sure about that. I actually don't know about that. So, Boris, where are you from? Simon, where are you from? Let us know if you're still out there somewhere. Anyway, today we've got our new quote of the day. The class clown knows more than everyone else. I'm going to tell a story about myself for this one. It's a bit self-flattering, but I think I'll tell it anyway because, well, what else can you do but flatter yourself sometimes? And it's actually a story I've never told anyone, so that's coming up. And then I also do often think about Osho and how he was when he was in class. Because, of course, he was a class clown for sure. For sure, absolutely, he was the class clown. You remember that thing where he's like looking out the window at a bird and not paying attention to the maths teacher? And the teacher's like, "Why are you looking at the bird? You should be paying attention to class." And Osho's just like absolutely not having any of it. Straight away, he just goes, "This bird is much more interesting and important than you. I would rather look at that." And then the teacher goes, "Bad, child," puts him down. "You must have a punishment. Do 10 star jumps or 10 exercises." And Osho's just like, "Actually, I won't do 10. I'll do 100. I didn't do my exercise today. So thank you very much. This is not a punishment." And, anyway, it's funny how he always had a way of upping the person he came up against. It was always a way that he could just, indestructible. I guess some people are indestructible, unstoppable with how they are. One day, here's another story I remember. One day, Mr. Tomlington comes home from work and he goes upstairs into his bedroom and he finds his wife on his bed and she's fully naked, red in the face, puffing and panting. And Mr. Tomlington goes, "Darling, what's going on here? What happened?" And Mrs. Tomlington goes, "Oh dear, I think I might be having a heart attack." And just then, Mr. Tomlington hears a sound from the cupboard. So he walks over, opens it up, to find his best friend, Tony, standing there. And in a second, without a moment's hesitation, Mr. Tomlington says to his best friend, "Tony, what are you doing here, hiding in the cupboard? My wife is having a heart attack. This is no time to play hide and seek." And I guess that's another example of how some people are invincible. Maybe not. And I mean, this thing with Osho, because he was a controversy, it's so easy for people to get the wrong idea. It's so easy for people to not really see what's going on. People see what they want to see, right? People want to have the story of the interpretation of the situation that they want to have. And that's the same with the class clown. That's the same with someone that makes a joke. That makes the same with someone who is a controversy, right? You see in them what is a reflection within you. And when it comes to Osho, my thing is do the meditations first. We're not going to have a philosophical discussion. We're not going to have an argument. I'm not going to try and convince you. You have to do the work. Now, with all the talking and the discourses that Osho gave over decades, he was actually someone who gave methods. He invented the process, and his directive was, you do the process and you see what happens. And that's what I would say to anyone who wants to talk about this, anyone who wants to know. Go and do dynamic meditation for 21 days. Every day, 6 a.m. And also afternoon meditation, Kundalini meditation, every day for 21 days. You do those two meditations, 6 a.m. dynamic meditation, 4 p.m. or 4:15 p.m. Kundalini meditation, afternoon meditation, and you do both of those at those times every day. And when you do them, you really do them. You really do dynamic meditation, which means you really jump. You really breathe. You really hold your arms up. You don't let your arms fall down. I really can't believe this when people say that they can't hold their arms up. And I've felt the same thing, right? I've said the same thing to myself. I've realized that it's hard to hold your arms up. It's hard to overcome this thing in your mind that says, oh, I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. Oh, it's impossible. Maybe for other people, but not for me. But it is possible. I've seen people do it. And I mean, that's the power of doing it in a group. I mean, these meditations are best done in a group. They're best done with the right environment, in a supportive environment, with a trained facilitator. Many times I've facilitated dynamic meditation, and you see all sorts of things. I mean, you're not really watching, but you still see certain things, right? Like, I remember one guy came in and I thought he was misunderstanding the instructions, because he used to do the jumping stage in the first stage and then the freak out stage in the third stage, and in the middle he would do the breathing or something. And I went up to him afterwards and I said, mate, do you know the stages, right? It's like, first you do the breathing, chaotic breathing, then you freak out, then you do the jumping, then you freeze, then dancing, right? That's the basic idea of it. That's the basic outline. First is the breathing, the fast, chaotic breathing through the nostril, because that then opens the respiratory system, the heart system, the energy, the body, the nooks and crannies, and that leads to the catharsis. And then second stage, you freak out, you throw it out, you make the noise, you punch and scream the air. Then the third stage is the jumping, the who jumping up and down, because that's meant to ground you. You don't want to get the freak out coming out of control. People can go into a trance state and they can lose control when they freak out. That's why the jumping is there. It's very specifically designed to be in the order that it is. And then fourth stage, you freeze. If you're doing the jumping stage properly, I remember Osho described it, or maybe it wasn't even Osho, it was Amrito, because Amrito was there when I was there. And he described it as in, your body is going like a full steam train. Imagine the force of a train going full steam. You go for broke. You give it everything you've got. And then you stop in that fourth stage and you freeze. Your arms are up. And that's when the witness separates from your experience and you get that deeper multidimensionality. And then that transforms into the dancing. And you open up to the harmony and the beauty and the flowing and the openness, and all of these nooks and crannies have just completely disintegrated away. And you can see, wow, this is a whole new opening. This is a completely different way of living. And the instructions say, carry your aliveness with you throughout the day. This dancing in this last 15 minutes, this is an aliveness that you carry with you throughout your day. So when people say, oh, Osho, he was a controversial guru, or he was a rascal, or he was a fake, well, okay, you can say those sort of things about him or anyone, but have you followed this advice? Have you followed the system? Have you done what he's said to do? Have you experienced it for yourself? And I guarantee if you do 21 days of dynamic meditation and Kundalini meditation, your whole life will be radically changed on every level. Your behavior, your mindset, your emotional spectrum, your heart opening, your relationships, your sense of space, your sense of harmony, your creativity, your productivity. It's a full spectrum, just complete radical transformation. No doubt about it. And you can just imagine what it would be like if you were doing more than just 2 meditations. Yeah, when I was living in Osho land, there were people that would do every meditation every day. Something like 6 or 7 active meditations. Incredible to think. I also remember when Osho came to school. I remember this story of when Osho came to school with a snake because he was learning snake handling. So the backstory is that he actually went to a snake charmer who would be someone who plays the flute and the snake dances, right? You see them in India. And he went to this guy and he said, oh, can you teach me how to catch snakes? And he says, yeah, I'll show you the ins and the outs. And he told him you start with the water snakes because a lot of the water snakes are non-venomous. They're not poisonous and they're much easier to catch because you can sort of see where they're going. And he also let him know that this whole thing of charming the snakes and making them dance is actually in a sense fake because snakes are deaf. They don't even have hearing, so they can't hear the music. But there are other ways in which they can create this illusion of the dancing snake. So one time Osho caught a snake and got it into a bag, and he actually brought it into the school to show everyone. And it was a non-venomous snake, completely harmless, and Osho knew that. But the teacher freaked out. And when the teacher freaked out, Osho said, if this snake bites you, it will kill you because it is highly venomous. And upon hearing that, the teacher jumped up onto the table and really just sort of had no idea what to do with this kid, right? So this is the class clown, right? This is the guy that invented dynamic meditation. The guy that has devices of consciousness that can change the world. This is the guy of an extreme intelligence, an absolutely way out there experience of human consciousness. And he's the class clown. He's bringing snakes to class. And I do have a bit of a story, which was I was certainly a class clown. I was certainly getting into mischief. But I remember one time these teachers, I think it was in science class or something, but we actually got given an IQ test. And I remember it quite clearly, actually. I remember some of the images and the processes. And I thought, when I'm doing this, it was like, wow, it actually tapped into my intuition. And I could see the answers. I could see them. I could know them. And I put them in. I was like, it was like this light bulb going off. So anyway, we did the IQ test. The whole class did it. And when the results came back, my results were like way ahead of everyone else. I was like way up the top, like further than all of the rest of everyone else. And the teachers were like, what the hell? Who is this? How can he do this? This is the class clown, the kid that's always acting up, the kid that talks back, the kid that never behaves. And I wasn't even thinking anything of it, right? But then once I'd done this test and they'd seen these results, they thought, well, we should put him in the top class. So the way they did school where I was, they had the middle class where you just learn the basics, and then there was a top class or a more advanced class. So I got put into the more advanced class for many of the subjects, and how that was like, wow, I can see there's a difference, and I can see that it is slightly better, but it's not that much better, and it was still actually really boring and really not interesting. And I guess I sort of put that down to, like, part of me puts that down to being like, well, I was just too smart for this dumb stuff that they were. And I know it's self-flattering. I know it sounds self-grandiose, but it's true. And then, of course, I ended up just playing up and acting up and, chatting up girls and causing mischief and never doing what the teacher said. So then my grades went bad and I never cared. So, yeah, and I mean, my whole schooling experience turned into something rather negative from that as well. And apart from a few moments of positivity, I remember there was one positive moment where I read the script for a play. Like in English class, they had a script, and the teacher, as a kind of punishment, gave me the lead role. Like, he's going to be acting up, so I'll give him the part that has the most reading. But I actually got into it, and I used my voice as a commentator. I remember the script, actually. It was called The Big Men Fly. So it was like a drama about Australian football where the commentator was saying what was happening in the game. So I was like the sports commentator for that class. And I actually got into it, and everyone was really enjoying it, right? It turned into this really positive thing. But yeah, I mean, my experiences of school really turned into something negative, apart from a few moments here and there. And, there's more to say about this class clown knows more than everyone else. It's just like, well, look at how things turned out, right? Now we're laughing. Now we're joking. Now we're having a good time. Now it's so beautiful how things unfolded and they turned into something so positive and so happy. And being able to smile about your day. And being able to say that, well, I hope you have a good day. And, of course, this acid quote tea is available on Etsy. And, of course, quite sincerely, I am hoping you have a beautiful day. So keep on smiling, stay true to yourself, and we'll be back soon with more. There is so much more to share. I didn't even get to the stories I was going to share. We'll be back soon. Tune in again. Go to the Etsy store. Have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.